This is Wine, Women, and Writing, which we record for video and audio at the same time. So every now and then you catch me with my eyes crossed or unawares. And I just got a message at the same time that we were not on Facebook and on Facebook. So I'm going to go with my gut and say that one of those has to be right. These odds are good. The purpose of my show today is to get you guys an introduction to a wonderful writer, editor, and publisher, Patricia Flaherty Pagan. But before we do that, a few quick announcements. As I said, this is Wine, Women, and Writing, and this is a show where I like to talk to other authors about primarily their female characterization, the authentic, complex females they write about, how they came up with them, and the real life experiences they're based upon. But I do let the men into the mix every now and then. I've got to say, I'm so excited because I have one of those books out myself right now, Livewire. It's the first in my Maggie trilogy, part of my What Doesn't Kill You series. So go out and grab you some Livewire. And while you're at my website, PamelaFaganHutchins.com, by all means, enter my contest to dress like Maggie to win one of the Johnny Was scarves from her favorite store in Sheridan, Wyoming, which is Twisted Hearts. And it does rock, by the way. And there's a reader appreciation contest. There's always something going on out at my website. Next week, we've got the release of Sick Puppy. And today we have Patricia Flaherty Pagan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Nice to see you.
Oh, it is good to see you too. You guys, Patricia, may I call you Patty? I believe that's
yes,
more used
totally to. Everyone can call me Patty. That's fine.
Her writer name is, and if you're searching for Patricia Flaherty Pagan, but we all know her as Patty. And Patty and I go back a number of years in the Houston writing community.
Yeah, we do.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with Patty. Before we even delve into the awesome stuff she does, she's got something super excited, I think, that she wants to tell you guys about. So what do you have going on in your world that is super exciting and that all the writers here need to know about?
Sure. Well, between now and May 17th, the indie press that I started is running a flash fiction contest. Now, this is our 5th year. And, you know, I love to write, and it's always nice to have people read your writing. But this is really the thing I'm proudest of, that I was involved with founding this contest. Every year we recognize flash fiction that features a strong or complex female character. Strong in her own way. She might be really nice and she might be not so nice, but strong in her own way. And yeah, it's a great contest. This year we have a $300 cash prize, which is always nice. And it's being judged this year by Rita Banerjee, who is one of the writers from Approaching Footsteps, but she's also the director of the MFA program at Vermont College for the Arts. So she's an amazing woman, and she would love to read your flash fiction. And I just want to throw out, you know, we're looking for 750 words of unpublished flash, but men can totally participate in the contest. Oh, and just so you know, I'm here at my favorite cafe, EQ Heights, and they make a mean king cake latte, but lots of other folks want to be here too. Yeah, Nutella latte, king cake latte during Mardi Gras. But yeah, everyone wants these lattes, so I apologize for the noise.
As we were getting ready today, there's virtually no one behind you, but it seems like there's been like a small army move in. Did they not understand this is your office?
I know, seriously, don't they know that I write here? Come on. But yeah, so just before the interruption, I was saying that, you know, the contest is 750 words of unpublished flash. Rita Banerjee, the judge, is super excited to read it, and anyone of any gender can enter. And the kind of the full guidelines are on our website, spiderroadpress.com.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned that you write there at EQ Heights, and so you're not just the amazing, you know, runner of contests and all of the other stuff you do that we'll talk about. You are an award-winning author, and I want you to make sure you tell everybody about the type of stuff you write and give us an example so that we're sure to have mentioned that.
Sure. Well, I write primarily short fiction. Flash fiction, short stories. I have a novella. I kind of see short fiction as a geode. you kind of cut through a lot of the larger narrative into the shiny crystals in the middle, and you just see that piece that shines in the middle. I write in a lot of different genres. I like to call a lot of my work karma fiction.
Karma fiction.
Well, what comes around goes around in my work, and I like to see the people who do, good things to find their own kind of peace, and the people who do bad things happen to them.
We like it when that happens. My
fiction.
Yeah, in fiction, right?
Fiction.
But it would never happen to you in real life because you are a good person, Patty. So you don't have to worry.
I try most of the time.
One of my favorite stories that you've written, I think, appeared in your Enduring Spirit book. Do you know the one that I'm talking about? And do you have a copy of that with you?
I do. And this is kind of some of my, not really my crime or quote unquote literary, but all good work is literary stories. This is a little bit Enduring Spirit, more fantasy, ghost stories, a little bit out there, edgier stuff. And in here, there's a story that's close to my heart. It's called Puka Dance, and it's about a young girl who encounters a monster at the playground, but how that shape-shifting monster, the puka, who comes from Celtic mythology, really becomes her guardian angel, and in its own monstrous way, takes care of her.
Right. I mean, I think that what I loved most about that story is that puka takes care of her. That puka is not necessarily a good puka to anybody else.
Like a lot of characters from Celtic mythology, they're not all good or all bad. They, they might haunt travelers on the road, but if you catch them at the right moment and you've got luck, you can harness their energy. And this particular shapeshifter really helps her out in ways that are important for her as a young girl.
So I have had the joy through Patty and I being in critique circles with each other over the years of reading a lot of her work, short work, long work, medium length work, and I highly, highly recommend it. And one thing I can say from having done that with you, Patty, is that you're very good at helping other writers develop and at spotting what good looks like in writing. And that leads us to Spider Road Press. Tell us a little bit about your baby there.
Sure. And I do love editing. It's a great, I love nurturing other writers. My baby, Spider Road Press, I accidentally fell into it about 5 years ago. I was co-editing an anthology of flash fiction by women with a friend of mine. And unfortunately, she had a medical crisis. And she was my publisher. But we had accepted 25 amazing pieces. And I thought to myself, well, I can't go back to these writers and say like, sorry, you wrote the best story ever that's under 1,000 words, but we've got no publisher. So I was hiking with my husband, who is awesome, in Big Bend in Texas, which is an amazing place if you ever get there. And I just thought to myself, well, how hard could it be, right? boy, was I naive, right? I was the most naive person ever. But I thought, how hard could this be? I'm just going to learn how to do it and do it myself, really, because I felt the stories deserved it, the writers deserved it. And kind of why we chose the name Spider Road Press is there were these tarantulas at these huge spiders at Big Bend. And they were everywhere. I don't know, they must have been mating or something, but they were everywhere. And I was struck by they were crossing the road, like this road that trucks were, careening down. The spiders would just keep going. And some of them got hit by the truck, but the spiders just kept going because they were like, I'm a spider. Don't mess with me. So their attitude and their perseverance, I was just like, that's what we're looking for, attitude and perseverance.
So they were taking the spider road there. So when you came back and you published these stories, at this point in time, you had established that you had stories that were by primarily female writers and about strong female characters. Were you sure all along that's the direction you wanted the press to take as its mission? or did that evolve too?
Well, this first book, we really were looking to amplify women. The first book, Updo, is actually still our most successful seller. I don't know if you can see it. I think because it kind of harnessed the energy around flash fiction at the beginning when it was just starting to get, you know, a little more trendy because you can read it, you know, on your phone or with the 5 minutes that you have as a busy person. You can read a flash story. And so the Vita count had just come out while we were collecting the stories. If people don't know what the Vita count is, there's an organization, Vita, and they track how many women and minorities are being published by major journals and magazines. And of course, fewer women are being published than white men, and fewer people of color are being published than white men. And that has improved since Vita started doing the count. But that was kind of in the back of our minds as we looked at this book. And I have, you know, the financial privilege of, you know, quitting my day job. And I was just like, if we're going to do this, like, I can go all in. This is before I had children, before I had a son. So I could go, you know, what your thoughts are of all in, or again, a little naive. But
now you're just going crazy.
Yeah. Oh, no, in a wonderful, wonderful way, for which I'm grateful. But at the time, you know, I figured we can go all in. And since I have this privilege to be able to not have a day job and make writing and publishing my day job, I was thinking we could also give a little bit of the proceeds to charity. So that is what we do at Spider Road Press. We give 5% of our proceeds to charity, primarily charities that deal with PTSD, that help women and children and veterans.
Excellent. Well, that's always, you know, it's appealed to me. I contributed a story to one of the books that you had very early on, and that was really important to me. And I think that with readers, that they can feel good about that when they're spending roughly what it would cost for a cup of that fancy coffee at EQ Heights, you know, to experience one of those books, that not only are they getting a richer and more satisfying and long-lasting experience than that cup of coffee, but a portion goes to charitable causes. So it's pretty rockin', Patty. Good for you. Good for the tarantulas.
Well, no, they were inspiring. And as I said, though, it's a way to you know, help writers, but also help the world. I mean, I think that, you know, artists and writers, we don't make quite as much money as some other professionals, but you know, there's always a way to give back and harness your work. And I did include one of your stories in Eve's Requiem, an excerpt from one of your Katie books, and it's awesome. And I love the haunted house kind of aspect of it. It makes me want to move to the Caribbean. But I do want to say is, and one of the reasons why I, you know, learn more about your writing and love being in critique group with you is that Pamela, sometimes if she was working on a book and she was really into it, she would host critique group in her pajamas because she'd been in her chair. No, do you remember this? It happened 2 or 3 times. She had been in her chair all day. She was so excited about writing that she didn't even bother to get up to put on clothes. So we would roll in there at like 6 o'clock, and she still had those pajamas on, but boy, had she been writing. And no, it's true. And she was just a wonderful support, yet taskmaster at the same time. That was the most fun and the most challenging critique group I've been in.
Oh, that's good. Well, definitely, you know, I am a stickler about the rules, and except when it comes to my own writing. Of course, you know the rules and then you throw them out, right? And that gets me to editing for you versus writing. You know, you started as a writer and then began editing. Would that be the right order? And
Yes.
Which do you like better? Do you feel like you love them both, would never give them up? How do you feel about these 2 hats?
Well, thanks for asking. I think that they're different paths. I find editing, particularly developmental editing, you know, identifying exciting points, but also inconsistencies and, you know, characters that aren't quite as rich as they could be. I find that piece of editing very satisfying. I do it in the books for Spider Row Press, and then I also do it freelance. I've helped some authors with their series developmental editing. So that is something I really enjoy. And it is, of course, improved in someone else's writing. You know, when you read someone else's work, you're like, oh yeah, you know, this antagonist, he picked up you know, the pencil with his right hand, and he signed that paper with his right hand, but all of a sudden the gun's in his left hand. You know, why is he shooting this gun with his left hand? Or this is almost perfect if just this art came together a little bit better. And you're so excited to give people positive feedback. Right. I think with my own writing, I feel like it's a vocation. I feel like it's a calling. I've tried to do other things. You know, I tried to be a social worker, and social workers do a very important job, and I greatly admire them. I was a mediocre teacher for a while, you know, didn't love classroom dynamics so much, but gave it a shot. So I have tried to do other things, and writing and editing just pull me back. I do feel that it's a vocation and a calling. And I kind of feel like my characters do what they want to do. So I love writing. I love interacting with the page, and I will do it no matter what happens in my life. But editing is in some ways easier.
Editing, working on other people's stuff, no matter what part of your life you're talking about, writing or personal stuff, I think it is easier to work on other people's stuff than your own. You know what I mean?
No, it is. But when my characters get to where I want them to be, like in that story we mentioned, Bookshelves, or, you know, in some of my flash fiction pieces, there's one, Rays of Someday Almost, that I really felt like I connected with the character. That one is in Trail Ways Pilgrims, my first collection. So when my characters get where they need to be in my own writing, I mean, that's an amazing feeling. You know, you know that too with your wonderful, complex female characters in your series, which everyone should be reading. Everyone should. I read one a year, and I give one to my sister Karen every year for her birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, no, her latest Pamela Fagan Hutchins book, and she looks forward to it every year. She's like, "Do you have my Pamela book?" And I was like, "Yes, I do. Happy birthday!"
Yeah, I love you. Well, and it is magic when things come together on a character and they start to feel authentic, and like now they are a real person to you within obviously the pages of your computer that you're writing on or whatever. But they become a real woman, you know, and that is an amazing feeling. So you mentioned some of the stories. I love that collection, Trail Ways Pilgrims, by the way. And so let's talk for just a minute about, with your writing again, some of what you write, even in the short pieces, even the shortest pieces that you do, feels, whether it is or not, feels very personal. It feels, and this may just be the achievement of a good writer and the authenticity and the complexity, but how much of yourself are you putting into your stories? Like the Trailway Pilgrims. I can't speak this morning.
It's okay. And hopefully people can hear me over the, you know, wonderful human interaction of the cafe, which is very fun. And EQ Heights, if you're in Houston, check it out. I think, for better or worse, all writing is personal. You know, I think it is. We can try to distance ourselves, you know, and hide ourselves. But I think, you know, every character reveals a little bit of yourselves. So there's that. But I think, you know, I often say stories are my lantern in the storm. That's how I think about it. You know, they're my raised fist, but my open hand at the same time. So I think kind of depends on the way the story takes you. As I did say, a lot of my stuff I do consider karma fiction. So maybe some wrongs I see in the world, you know, I feel like I can, if my characters want to go there, maybe correct them at least on the page. Right. I can give some people a voice who might not have one. Otherwise, as you have done, you did with some of the characters who were being trafficked in one of your books. You gave them a voice, which they might not have otherwise had, and introduce your readers to them, when maybe they might not have thought of that issue. So I do try to do some of that in my work, but there are some pieces that are more personal, deal with issues, more personal to me. I mentioned that Rays of Sunday Almost. It's a piece about miscarriage, and that's something I personally know something about. So I feel, that I achieved what I wanted to achieve with that one. It got some positive attention, particularly in my graduate school program, which was wonderful. But, it was all these very serious writers writing serious things. And I was, I had a suspense novel as my MFA thesis. So they're like, oh, the suspense you're writing, Patty, isn't this, entertaining?
Yeah. Isn't it cute?
Yeah. Isn't this fun? I was like, fun doesn't sound like positive critique. But anyway, but there were also some wonderful and encouraging people at my MFA program, Goddard, which people should check out because you can do it distance, low residency, which is what I did. But this one particular piece, Race of Someday Almost, they did actually like in graduate school, and it did have a personal tie-in to me.
Yeah, I find that a good editor is somebody that can help you make sure that you are being honest enough to make your characters authentic and complex. A good developmental editor. I remember when I was writing about alcoholism, that my editor was like, you aren't being personal enough. You have to bleed it out, or nobody's going to believe it, and you just have to find a way to make it all personal, even if it hasn't been personal to you. And I love what you say about, well, first of all, I love what you said about serious writing versus entertaining writing. I struggled with that all the time. I had an editor that was like, when I turned in a particular book to her, oh, this is the book I've been waiting for you. We can really turn this into literary fiction. And I said, stab me in the eye with a fork. That's not what I want to write. I know that is what some people want to read. I know that I could write it if I wanted to, but it's not what I want to write. It's not the experience I want to give. I actually do want to provide a little bit of escape, but at the same time, I want to sneak my messages in. So when you're reading sometimes an author that you think is entertaining, the subtext may not be as entertaining as you think it is. It may be their sneaky way of trying to make a statement on the world. And I love the ability to do that I can entertain and still hide a message in there. It's like invisible ink. Now, go ahead.
We've been telling stories, since we were all sitting around the fire. And so stories are sometimes entertaining, but they're also full of symbols and archetypes and lessons we want to teach each other. So I think all writing is literary. All good stories have something to teach us.
I think so too. I love that about you. And Patty is capable of running the gauntlet with just, if there is a genre out there, I've seen Patty write it. I think it's in some form or fashion with a whole lot of skill. But one thing that changed with you, Patty, since the days of our critique circle is the wee one in your house. You had the cats. But it's the wee one. How has being a mom changed your writing and your editing and your publishing and your philanthropy and your activism and everything?
It has, being a mom in general, brings you a lot of joy, and it really reminds you of kind of the humor and the mischief in life. I have this wonderful 4.5-year-old, Alex Chicheng, and he's just, the funniest thing, he's always laughing, and if something goes wrong, he thinks it's hilarious, so it really gives you perspective, and it keeps you in the moment.
Yeah.
I tend to be a little bit of a worrier, shout out to all the worrier moms, but he just laughs, at any situation that arises. And as I said, it brings you back to kind of the kid in you. He's very musical. So we dance around and sing a lot, and with kids, you never know what they're going to gravitate towards. We heard Uptown Funk on the radio, perhaps not the most appropriate song, but I was singing along, we're driving in the car. So he decides Uptown Funk is mommy's song, and he's singing it at preschool. And I'm like, ooh, maybe not I play all these nursery rhymes. And, my sunshine. Does he pick up on "You Are My Sunshine"? No, he picks up on Uptown Funk and goes to sing it at school. But that's that's the kind of the way life is and changes. With a wonderful little boy, and my son is adopted. And he had some medical problems at the beginning of his life. So sometimes we get this nice positive feedback from people. And it is positive, that perhaps we're saving him or giving him something extra. And I say, thank you. But actually, he's saving us. And he's giving us something extra because he's really a blessing in our lives.
Oh, he is so adorable. It's worth following Patricia Flaherty Pagan on Facebook. If not for her wonderful writing and the writing of the people that she publishes and their stories, then just to see the Alex post. He's just the cutest.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And, there's this moment in each of our shows where I think I would like to turn off the video and just keep talking to my friend on the other side of me all day. But I have a duty at some point to wrap it up. And so I'm going to start the wrap up sequence with great sadness here. But Patty, is there anything you want to make sure that word you got out for people, website, events, anything before we start that sad adieu?
Well, I would like to remind people of the contest because I know there are great writers out there. And there are storytellers who think, well, maybe I'm not a writer. That's the nice thing with flash fiction is 750 words might not be as intimidating. Right. Some people find it more intimidating, but it can be less. So take a risk on that. And if you are interested in the contest or other books that we've published by strong women, depicting strong women, and some men who depict strong women, our website at Spider Road Press is spiderroadpress.com. And if you're interested in my work as well from Spider Road Press, but also some other outlets and journals, my website is patriciaflahertypagan.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, one of the things that I'm duty bound to say each and every episode is this is a solely owned and copyrighted production of Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. And then a shout out and thank you to our awesome producer, Pam Stack. And we next week are going to be talking to Mac Little. Her debut novel, Progeny, is out, Science of Darkness. Please read along with me. Yeah, it's great. Read along with me. Pamela's Personal Book Club, AKA Wine, Women, and Writing. And when you're not reading Progeny, be reading Livewire because Sick Puppy comes out next week, and you're going to want to be, step by step with Maggie. And be sure to go to my website, PamelaFaganHutchins.com, for contests and things like that. Once again, thanks for being here, Patty. You were a wonderful guest and friend.
Oh, thank you. You're very inspiring. You really are.
Oh, thank you very much. And for all of you out there, pick up a copy of one of the great Spider Road Press books. I recommend Enduring Spirits, Puka at Dawn, and Patty at her best. And until next time, I hope that you are enjoying a wonderful week of great books and blessings in your life. Goodbye, everybody.